Welcome everybody back to Boost Emotion, guys. And today, we finally have pretty much a lot of information about the new 2023/2024 C63s hybrid, technically, right? Guys, let's hit that intro. Welcome everybody back to Boost Emotion, guys. And good morning, good afternoon, and good night. Thank you. Welcome everybody back. Welcome everybody back to the channel. First thing, shout out to my Boost in Motion family. Thank you guys. Thank you for always showing support because I know that you guys already hit that like button. And also, guys, if you are part of the Boost in Motion family, guys, please watch those ads. This is one of the best ways to give back to the YouTube channel. So thank you, and I really appreciate it. And if you're new to the Boost in Motion channel, I am Boost in Motion. I am a Nissan Infiniti enthusiast, car enthusiast, but also report the news. Also report the news on interesting cars or just something that goes on in the car community because, I'm a regular guy like you. But anyway, guys, let's go. Let's jump into it. Listen, I'm gonna just make this quick. I'm gonna try to make this video as informative as I can. All right. So today, a lot of information came out about the new Mercedes C63s. There was an embargo, and pretty much a lot of the top people we follow finally got to release some information about the car. And here's a quick little bit of cliff notes that I love about this car, and some of the stuff I dislike. So if anyone wants to know, pretty much this car makes over 600 and something horsepower. But that's not combined. That's not just horsepower from the engine. That's combined horsepower with uh about a 200 horsepower electric motor that sits on the rear drive axle of the car. But if the car didn't have that, the car makes about 476 horsepower from its four-cylinder single turbo 9-speed drivetrain. Okay, cool. Now, here's some other clip notes that I don't like about the car. Just quickly, the car is about 4,600 pounds because of the electronic battery, the rear electric two-speed engine, electric engine in the rear, and amongst other things, this car is a lot heavier. But anyways, let's go. Now I want to give you a little bit more information on some of the stuff that I learned from watching Car Wow, Auto Trader, and a couple of other UK, German, car enthusiast reviewers that they gave us some information that we really needed to know. First thing, I love the styling of this car, man. It's they just pretty much updated the car and made the car look a lot more newer and not a lot better looker. Remember, guys, if you're new to this channel, I currently am still an owner of a Mercedes C63 W205 V8. So seeing this big change from the V8 rear drive to this car is something new, and I don't really know how it really sits with me. So looking at these specific car reviewers, I sat there and I said, okay, I know these guys know what they're talking about. I trust them. All right, so here's some information that came out that really surprised me and shocked me. And these are gonna be my personal pros, I must say, for the car, right? Let me just back it out because I don't think you guys want to really look at me. So, first thing I want to say is this that stood out to me was you can drive about 8 miles on full electric mode or EV mode, right? So that means for people who live in well, I'm in New York City, Brooklyn, New York, precisely, and we do a lot of short driving. Everything's within 5 miles. Depending on how hard you press the gas, pretty much I can drive this car full EV or full electric mode up until about 20% of the battery charge. Most of my commute is under 5 miles, so knowing that I can drive this car full EV mode and still have charge electric charge left is super dope. Also, on top of that, also remember that this car is regenerative, right? It has regenerative braking. So when it is full, hybrid electric mode, that the car is actually very fast charging. It really the engine and the motor and the turbo, everything is charging that battery pack. The car is always recouping energy while it's still running. And pretty much moving a lot of that power that it gets back right back into the battery pack. So the battery pack charges extremely quick. Also, the battery doesn't get really hot because every cell or every battery cell has its own coolant that goes through it. So they put so much F1 technology into this car. It's insane. And it makes me excited to see what they're really doing. Another thing that stood out to me, because it's an electric assisted turbo, means that there's no more turbo lag. This turbo look like it's a really big turbo. I'll look more into the AR because it's a Garrett AR 0.57. I believe that's more on the big side, more bigger side, but because it's electronic assisted turbo, the electric motor in the turbo actually keeps the car spooling. Even though when you pull off the gas, it keeps those turbos spooling at a high RPM so that when you get back on it, you don't have to wait for boost lag. It just hops right back into it. And I really love that part. Remember that it's a 204 horsepower, two-speed final drive. So pretty much anything under 86 miles an hour, it's in the first final drive, right? That's pretty much the shorter gear, so you can have the best amount of acceleration. But after 86 miles an hour, it switches over to the second speed. Excuse me, guys, the second speed final drive, which would give you, I would assume, probably better fuel economy. And once again, it's final drive. So your final drive really lets you, limits you and lets you know about how fast you can go if you were to top out the car. But usually final drives are best suited for like, um, uh, I would say, fuel economy. But I really am curious a little bit more on how this car is set up for the final drive, because if it's changing at 86 miles an hour, I get it. Maybe those other gears may be too short or too long. Well, if the final drive may be too short for anything past 86 miles an hour, then it would probably make sense. But honestly, what I'm thinking is, when you're at a certain mile an hour, they probably changed the final drive to something a little bit longer so you could get probably better fuel economy for the full cylinder. But if you give it on the full throttle, I assume it probably switches back to the first one, which is probably a shorter final drive where you will have better acceleration through, maybe, let's say, gear 4, 5, and 6. So it all depends. But this is just me just thinking on how they would actually design this final drive. Um, Now, here are some of the times that really made me smile. So remember, this car is 4,600 pounds, and when they tested the car with their own draggy or race box, certain electronics they will use to try to pick up 0 to 60 times, they did about 3 seconds 0 to 60 miles an hour. That's really good for a 4,600 pound car, all-wheel drive. And the quarter mile time was about 11.2, 11.3 quarter mile time. Now, the only thing I really wish that they would have recouped or showed us was the trap speed. And I realize a lot of these reviewers, they do the times, but they don't give us the trap speed. To me, I need to know the trap speed as a car enthusiast, because it lets me know, is this car just quick 0 to 60 or a quarter mile car, or is this a quick car that has quick 0 to 60, but then it's also picking up a whole lot on the quarter mile. For instance, let's use a Hellcat Red Eye. Usually, Hellcat Red Eyes, if they hook at the track, they're a mid to high 10-second car, right? And their trap speeds could be as low as 126 to about 132, depending on air, right? So, nonetheless, this car is, of course, slower than a Hellcat, of course. But if I see the trap speed like 129, 120, 130, that's good. Also, comparing it to a C63, C63s V8 one, um, I would actually be able to gauge if this car is really that much more better in a quarter mile. We can see it based on the the quarter mile time, because it's 11.2, but that's because it's an all-wheel drive. So it's gonna do that. But the track speed is really gonna let me know if this car is really more superior, in the sense of, is it really technically faster than the last outgoing car? And of course it is. Come on, it has a 200 horsepower electric assisted motor. Now, so some of the annoying things that came across me, I'm just gonna show some photos of the car, because the car is definitely stunning. To me, it still looks like a C63 W205. They just, of course, just upgraded the taillights and the front end, but it's still technically the same car, and of course, updated the interior. But to me, it's still the same chassis. I don't care. I mean, they may say it's a different chassis, but to me, it literally like the same chassis. All they did was just change up the dash, of course, added some, same similar type of seats, and changed the rear end like most of the newer Mercedes rear end with the taillights and the front end, because most Mercedes front end and rear end looks relatively the same. Now, some of the annoying things, or things that they pointed out, but also that I saw, was it has annoying voice prompts. And from what I can see with the new Mercedes, their new infotainment, if depending on if you speak to it or talk, say certain words, it will definitely pick up on it. But I guess that's something you could probably turn off within the MDX or whatever you would call its own system. You could probably turn it off. Number two, small trunk. Now, I don't really carry a lot of stuff in my trunk, but when I do, I love to have space. And remember, I used to own Infinities and Nissans and stuff like that. And I really do appreciate that the Mercedes trunks are a lot bigger and have a lot more room. But seeing that enough people are saying the trunk has gotten a lot smaller and they're literally complaining about it, I think that's something that is could be a downer for some people. Two, the sound. Guys, I love the V8, but seeing this four-cylinder turbo sit here, it's not my thing. It's not my thing. I'm being honest with you. It's just it's not making me quite happy seeing this. But that's the way they have it lined up. And losing the V8 sound, the V8 grunt, which I love in my C63 is amazing. And seeing what everyone is saying based on reviewing like this isn't it. And what I gotta say is what there's a reason why a Prius is a Prius because it's purposely built, and it's why a Hellcat is a Hellcat because it's purposely built. And it seems like AMG is wanting to build something so different because of EPA or because of their own emission standards over there, right? But they made the car soulless. It's kind of like the Tesla talk I talked about. The Tesla and Tesla Plaid could make so much performance. I don't care. They could be a 9-second car all day, but they're not giving me the sound I like. It's just a feeling. But there needs to be an emotion. There's no emotion in going quick. The emotion comes from the sound of a car. And honestly, from all the things I've been seeing, it's not the car's not delivering the sound that I really would want, particularly. Um, Another thing here that I listed is after looking into what the people were talking about with the performance delivery of the electronic battery pack, because remember the car makes close to 500 horsepower without the electric assist from the electric motor in the rear. The up to about after 20 to 30%, the power backs down to about 476 horsepower. So this power isn't always on tap. That's it. Like it's still a 500 horsepower four-cylinder motor, which is pretty much I think makes it the most powerful four-cylinder turbo four-cylinder manufactured ever, like from factory. But this is a 400, almost a 500 horsepower car that's 4,600 pounds. You see what I'm saying? It's not like they put this in the old C63, right? Which was about a 39 to a 4,000 pound car, where that 476 horsepower would have probably did a lot better. But the fact that they put it in a 4,600 pound car that only delivers about 10% of its full power, or 10 seconds of that full 200 and some power for about 10 seconds. After that, depending on how quickly you continue to deplete the power source of the car, right? Because we live in New York City or in America. You may not be driving this car to its full potential. Most of us won't, right? But for the people who may want to drive the car for its full performance, want to take it to the track, the car will be limited on how much power it's going to continue to deliver. So knowing that at the 20 to 30%, the car dumbs down and goes back into try to full recovery mode, even though it's a fast charging battery pack. And I guess it probably works in stages where depending on how much percentage of power, from what I was reading, depending on how much percentage of power it actually regains, then it could be able to deliver that power again in those 10-second um spirited drives or at the track or however you may do it. But even then, it's still, even though it's regenerative, I just want to know how quick is it? Is it depleting super fast or is it depleting fast enough? Because if you're at the track, I can see this could be an issue. Even seeing some of the videos where they're saying in the corner, the car's when you're pressing on the heavy braking, it's recharging the battery as fast as it can. But then on the quick straights, it gives you full power. So I can see this be a system. Once again, it's a F1 technology. I see that this will always still be there, but I just want to know how good is that? And that seems like something that's more annoying or could be a con side. But we gotta wait and see. But for the average day person, they may not care for that part. Um, some people supposed to stated that the weight transfer of the vehicle seems very there. If you came from a tight turn to right, then you go left, you can feel the weight of the car. And I've driven enough cars in this life, and yes, you can practically feel the weight in the car, depending on how the suspension setup, but also how heavy or how high the car sits. And I learned that through my time of driving different cars, and that's something that could be a downfall. But once again, for regular daily use, it may not be really a case. Um, and honestly, the last thing is it would say is fake noise or fake sound. Once again, most cars come with this nonsense. They come with the fake sounds pushed into the car, and you just have to be like, okay, maybe that helps you with the emotions. That's why they make fake engine noises to stimulate emotion. They know that we missed the V8. They ever since this okay, remember they give this car a V8. Now they give it a 4 cylinder. So they understand that you need that more noise. Just like the M3s. The M3s, they had the V8. Then when they went down to that, they noticed they got to start giving us fake noises because that V8 it stimulates emotion. Once again, emotion, and the fact that they removed a lot of these V8s or these better sounding engines, it definitely changes the driving emotion of the car. It's a two-part thing: driving feel plus the sound. If you just give me driving feel and no sound, I'm not really buying it. Um, all in all, there's a couple of things I want to say, and what I want to say is also me and the guy from Carwow really agreed on something because I watched his video, and all in all, I want to say my final things that I really wish, in my opinion, that I wish they would have done. All right, first thing, I get why they did it. I said it in plenty of my other videos talking about the C63s, this specific one, what I wish they would have done, right? Or just some honorable notes, right? Number one, I really wish that they would not have went to the 4 cylinder AMG motor. I know it's a dope motor for everyone's watching. If you are watching, I really appreciate you guys for showing support. So hopefully you hit the like button. But I wish they wouldn't have went with the 4 cylinder. I get why they did it because of their own emissions over there, but they still make I believe the M256 inline six motor. And this motor is derived AMG motor. It is. Like they can that M256 motor is pretty much built more from the AMG line because it's an inline six, and it's probably more of a comparison with the S58 motor or in pretty much any other popular inline six motors out there. And I think it would have been really dope if they would have put the inline six motor in the C63, right? But I get why they didn't do it because they wanted to go to more of a, once again, emissions type of build. Also, how would the inline six really would have carried on with the electronic assist? I get it, but as a car enthusiast and a person that not only looks for a car for the way it comes, but where it could additionally end up and going, I believe the 6 cylinder would have been a better motor to build for power on when it comes to the top end of the vehicle. The 4 cylinder could only do so much. It's basically, once again, the most powerful 4 cylinder out there. But knowing that I would have a 6 cylinder with very similar build quality, I believe it's pretty much the V8 cut in half or whatever, or similar V8, not really V8 cut in half. You guys know what I mean. But knowing that they would have just used that and built up that vehicle and they would have had forged pistons, fries, all that stuff, single turbo. It has a very similar system in the CLS 50 and 43s, the GT 63s. And the car would have delivered, not it already has electric assist turbo. I believe the car would have delivered almost similar power, but when it would have come to, let's say, making a 7, 8, 900 horsepower car, it would have been a lot easier to do on the 3 liter than a 2 liter. You know what I'm saying? But once again, I get the packaging. Maybe the weight of that motor would have thrown off some of the balance. Maybe they just said, you know what? This is just a better package. And I get it. But I really would have loved to see it because I once again I think it would have just fell more in line with what AMG has done from even like the older C32s and C36s. And somebody did correct me. I forgot that car came a little different, but I think it would have just fell more in line with that rather than going to a 4 cylinder. And I think once again, Mercedes did it's kind of like a smack in the face while going with the 4 cylinder. But once again, that's my opinion. And if you guys disagree, tell me below. Um, Also on top of that, because they went with the 4 cylinder, I really I think, in my honest opinion, knowing that they have the V8 that they came out with, that's basically in the GT63 and other Mercedes vehicles, because I believe the S63 came out too with the hybrid system. So there's basically 3 models out: the C63, GT63, and the S63, which are e performance hybrids, right? They're still using it in house. And it's like, you guys could have done it. You guys could have done it, but you chose not to do it. And I get it, because then that car would have been really heavy, but not that much more. The four cylinders lighter, but it's not. The car would have probably been 4,900 pounds. But then also, I get it. You don't want to put that motor back in there. And then now it would have destroyed the GT63 or the S63s, because, of course, people would have sat there and said, why would I go get those vehicles when you got the C Class with the same drivetrain? And once again, it's a downer, man. It's a downer. In my honest opinion, I would have been more happier if Mercedes just said, you know what, we're gonna give you guys the four cylinder, the V8 still, right? But we'll just make it all-wheel drive, right? And just give the updated M178 motor, pretty much what the motor that's in the E63 and the GT63, that V8, because that motor is better. It would have delivered a lot more, hell of more power. It's 600 and something horsepower, but you could have did tuned it to 550, 560 horsepower all-wheel drive. And if you wanted to, you could have added the similar system, the mild hybrid system, but then once again, that threw off weight. So I would have just been happy with just making the car technically just an all-wheel drive and up the power and give me the better looks. I would have been perfectly fine with that. And I think people, in my opinion, people would have still bought it, because in this current day and age, it's good comparison. RS5 and even the M3 pretty much is direct competition. The M3 is going to probably run for the next good amount of years before it has a hybrid system in it. Now, I know they putting the mild hybrids in like the 340s for like the 2020, 2023, 2024 model. 340s, they put a mild hybrid system, but the M3 from what I've been reading, they're not getting that. So for the next 3, 4, 5 years, that M3 is not getting it. So you didn't need to just go ahead, advance, and just do it. You could have just gave us an all-wheel drive system, noise, and of course the better looks, the more updated W206, and I think people would have definitely bought it. And I think it would have been great. But seeing where the BMW is right now, with just not only how the car comes from out the gate, the 0 to 60, the quarter mile times look very similar between the two, right? Very similar. But when it comes to probably going on to an actual track and beating on the car, I want to see which one will be better, and I think that's gonna definitely once again go to an M3. It's gonna. I don't think that this W206 will be able to compete on that specific level, but we're talking about track here. Now, when we talk about everyday life, for depending on the type of driving you do, regular everyday person that may drive 5 to 10 miles a day, honestly, in my opinion, I think the C63 may be better because you have more options here. Not only are you getting a pretty much 500 horsepower car with another additional 200 horsepower on top of it, but also you have the power on demand. You're not like you're flooring it for 30 minutes on end, full top end. The car would be able to deliver power when you want to at the stoplight. You can take off on the empty competition that's next to you. And technically, based on the times, you should be very similar to them. You can drive on full EV mode. You might have lost a little bit of trunk space, but all in all, it seems like it is an upgrade, definitely over the W205 C63. But then also, let me just see. I want to click a little bit more photos here. But when I sit there and I think about it, and I'm like, this car would be particularly for my lifestyle. I can see that I would want the C63 more. I'm sorry, I know I'm a Mercedes person, but I would see that I want the Mercedes C63 more because it technically will be a little bit more special. And it does give me more options on if I want to plug the car in and charge it, if I want to put gasoline in it, if I want to, depending on how you use the car, it's always recharging that battery pack, which technically in one part I forgot to add here. Hopefully you guys made it. You this car can yield you about 25 to 27 miles per gallon. That's insane. That's insane. And it's dope that as long as this motor's still running, you can go pop in on EV mode and come back and recharge and pop in. Like you can do that and modulate it. And it technically sounds like it could be a hack on pretty much how to get the most amount of miles per gallon out of pretty much a 600 horsepower vehicle. That's unheard of and it's very uncommon. And I think that's definitely a positive. So, guys, outside of that, I don't want to talk anymore. I feel like I've been talking to you guys and been too much in my emotions. But outside of that, guys, you have a good morning, good afternoon, good night. Thank you for banging with your boy Boost. I know I'm just talking my nonsense, but particularly tell me, guys, what you thinking below. Comment below. Let me know if the C63 may be just ahead of its time. Did they miss their mark? Or you guys agree with some of my points and you see where this car may feel somewhere into the performance guy, performance guy's mind. Is this really where the future is headed? Oh, guys, you already know what to do. Add me at boostinmotion IG, Facebook, and boostinmotion@gmail.com. Otherwise than that, guys, I appreciate it. Guys, have a good day. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Do appreciate you guys. Love you guys very much. You can also check out the 2 links I posted for some of my other videos. Also, on top of that, if you want to purchase some Boost in Motion merch, definitely check the link that I posted also. And finally, if you've been watching all my videos and you enjoy them, please hit the link to subscribe to my YouTube channel.